there's something else going on in the building for the other parking lot. I thought he said that we would use one parking lot because the other one was for another event.
I heard you were in charge of this.
I was going to put them on the seats, but I decided to sound out to people if they don't. Which do you think you got it from?
Yeah. Here earlier, getting myself settled.
Yeah.
Are they burning Quakers in the room?
Yeah.
It's nothing that I haven't seen her. That's fine. Yeah, because often. Standard operating procedures, yes. Thank you.
Gotta have my family behind me.
There's a Mary. There's someone else on my set up behind.
For those who have never attended a Quaker meeting for worship, generally we settle into silence in the expectation that anyone might be inspired to speak. And it's impromptu, not something you brought to read. I will signal the end of the Quaker part of the worship, and then there are family and maybe friends who have written things they would like to say. Thank you.
cousin Kathleen, Kathy, lived her life with joy and hope and optimism. She taught me a lot of things. She taught me how to smoke. She taught me how to squeal the wheels on my father's car. But she mostly taught me how to live with joy, how to love myself.
Kathleen was my neighbor. She was always just super cool, always greeted me and my kids with a humongous smile and like the best energy on the planet. Always very welcoming, let us play on their property and in their pond and stuff. That was just so cool. And I think the biggest thing that really stands out about Kathleen in my life is that she taught me some different views. I had some harsh views on a few things that I think the media and just the vibe of people in general have. Kathleen taught me a different way to look at some things, and I will always appreciate that. It was a much more loving way to look at things, and I think that just kind of says who she was loving and caring.
I'm going to speak from here because I think I can probably speak loudly enough that people can hear me. I'm a member of the Quaker meeting that Paul and Kathleen were part of, and a wonderful, wonderful addition to. People have talked about Kathleen's sense of joy, her desire to face things with joy, and she also wanted other people to have that. When I heard that she had chosen to go into hospice, I thought, but who's going to get us together just to have fun? Because that was Kathleen. I said she was, if we'd been a cruise ship, she would have been the activities director. She wanted everybody to be together. And it was a sense of community, and community is a very, very important value to Quakers, both the immediate community, but also the community of the world. And she felt that in her sense of justice, her willingness to go stand somewhere with a sign. She saw us all as part of a community. I got to see Kathleen just 3 days before she died. And she was still alert and speaking, and she was very open about her coming death. And I think there was just the tiniest bit of excitement. I think she was really curious what was going to happen, and she was pretty sure it was going to be a good time. So that is a wonderful thing to leave us all with. I am so appreciative of her, and also appreciative of all of you for being here.
I think she was very accepting. She accepted everyone for what they were.
I'm not gonna go up there either, but I'm gonna stand here. I think everybody can hear me. I'm the little sister. We never saw eye to eye growing up. She's 2.5 years older than me. And that's okay. We were siblings. We respected each other, and she was the best anti-Fruit Loop sister that I ever had. She was we were the only 2 girls and 2 younger brothers. She was very much like my dad in many regards because she was loving and caring and totally oblivious to the world around her in many regards. She was a butterfly person. If there was a butterfly, don't look at the accident that happened over here. And that's who she was. And I had an opportunity to visit with her through Cheryl, her daughter, on the phone a couple days before she passed, and we had a great conversation of some of our background. I lived a long way from her, so we weren't real close physically. But she was always my big sis. And I loved her dearly, and I will love her forever. And you grieve and you feel sorry for yourself, but you grieve because you loved that person so much. That's where the grief comes from, is because of the love. No matter what our thoughts were or anything, she will always, and she's greeting my son in heaven the day she died. I know that.
I enjoyed being around Kathleen and Paul. I never knew what she was going to say or do next. And a few weeks before she died, Donna Rodriguez went to stay with her when Paul had appointments and stuff. And so when Donna was leaving, she said, Kathleen has me reading out of this book about the Holocaust. And so it was a bit too much for Donna. Donna didn't want to read much more of it, and so I took over because she still wanted to hear about this Holocaust story. So she was concerned that Kathleen liked it because it was about the kids involved, the people involved, and their perspective. So she was still interested in what people have experienced, how they dealt with it. And then I was with Kathleen the day that I think it was Beth called, and Kathleen said something about, well, Paul's doing this, and Beth said, oh, Paul's a good guy. And Kathleen said, yeah, and he's cute too. Except his nose. I don't like his nose. After he got married, it grew. And I don't like his nose anymore. And so that was on Mother's Day. That was on a Sunday, and she died on Saturday. So yeah, it was just, and so when things happen, I think, quirky things happen, I think, I think Kathleen's around, and she's making sure that we're still having this fun.
My cousin Kathleen came to stay with my family one summer, long ago, when we were very, very young. Now my family consisted of 8 children, young children, wild children, going every which way. Kathleen had an ability to to enchant us with her stories. And I think she worked as a waitress for the summer, but every night she would come home and we'd be waiting at the door for her to step into the room, because we knew there was going to be some magical story that she was going to share with us. But the thing that I always took away from Kathleen was her sense of bravery and courage, of facing everything that life had to offer, and facing it with a sense of joy. Even though the times could be challenging, she always found that joy, and she always had that smile, that magnificent smile. So I'll carry this with me the rest of my life.
I'm going to go ahead and piggyback what he just said. Two things that come to mind with Kathleen is bravery and courage. So in my career, I worked in South Phoenix, Arizona. Back in the days, there was the projects, the stabbings, the shootings. She used to teach out at the South Mountain High School there. Those kids back then were rough. In order to be a teacher there, you have to have courage and to be brave. So, two things come to mind, and to this day, every time I drive by there, I'm like, wow, I can't believe she's the teacher here. Unbelievable.
My cousin Kathleen was the family historian. She interviewed our grandmother, and she wrote out the story of how our grandmother emigrated from Germany, how the boat left Bremen Harbor, was out 2 days in the ocean, and then had to return because it was taking on water. They had to be shipped to another ship to get them back to the harbor, and then wait until there was another ship available. She helped me to understand people do the best they can under any circumstance, and you just have to understand they're doing the best they can to spread love with them. So I'm grateful to her for the perspective she gave me on what was past and what is to come.
I moved to Lansing, where she was living and gone back to school with a 5-year-old and come to know them. And she was the queen while you were the princess. She was the queen of the graduate student housing because she brought this wonderful spirit. And the spirit expressed itself through compassion. She understood what people were going through. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit. I was 20-something. I didn't keep my apartment very clean. And I went on vacation. And she watered the plants. And when I came back, she had cleaned up the entire apartment. And I said, that's so nice, that's so unexpected. And she said, yes. I knew you'd be coming back, and there would be a little disappointment at having to go back to your routine job. And therefore, if we can take this little burden off of you, it will make your transition back better. So now when my wife of 35 years goes on a business trip, I make sure that I clean the house before she gets home. And she has, through that spiritual, little material gift with a spiritual component, made my relationship at home better. She lives on.
I didn't know Kathleen. I know her through our friend Cheryl Calder. And I made some notes. There are a lot of good traits: joy, cool, loving, caring, fun, togetherness, sense of community, accepting, enchanting, brave, courageous, unbelievable. And joy was mentioned a lot of things. So our gift from Kathleen to us was Cheryl. We met years ago as a great friend, and our sincere condolences.
I've known Paul for over 50 years. I knew him pre-Kathleen, and I knew him during Kathleen. And I can say that Kathleen brought him joy, hope, and peace, and refreshment. She lightened up his life. We have been in touch for a long, long time, but he is a joy to behold, and it's because of Kathleen. So now it's post-Kathleen, so we need to work with Paul a little bit too, and Kathleen will help, I'm sure.
Well, I'm going to speak on behalf of Kathleen's brother, Sean, because I'm married to him. And one of the things that he wanted me to say was that when he was younger, he was awkward and just kind of couldn't hear him, had problems. And it was a lot of times it was Kathleen that would take him out for walks and just talk to him and make him feel special, I guess. And he said he never forgot that as long as he lived. And one of the things I remember about her is her silliness with me. Of course, I'm silly anyway, but we could make fun out of anything. And just the joy she did bring to a lot of different times we were together. And I love her and I miss her and I always will. And so will Sean.
My emotion today, Paul and all of you, is one of gratitude. I'm so grateful that God sent Kathleen into my life so that I can learn from her. Our Bible says that our lives should be more than just words, but action. What I learned from Kathleen was how to live her principles and how to live them with courage, a sense of truth to power, and also a good sense of humor. So I thank you, Kathleen, and I know that all of you also have a sense of gratitude today if you knew her and if you saw what she gave to life. Thank you, Kathleen.
Kathleen came to our Quaker community in 2009, maybe, or 10. And for those of you who know her well, it wouldn't seem to be a good fit, sitting in silence. But one of the things I admired about Kathleen was her effort, her ongoing effort to find in the silence what she saw other people finding. And her ongoing effort to feel that peace and inspiration that can come when one can settle into the silence. It was hard for her. And often I sat next to her in meeting for worship. And I knew that the energy was always flowing through her, but it's what she wanted. And I admired that she kept trying to achieve it.
I'm one of Kathleen's Quaker friends. And our meeting set up at Toledo Pride for a few years. Not to proselytize, but to just let people know that a welcoming and affirming space exists. And Kathleen told me after her first time at Toledo Pride, she was like, oh my God, it was the most wonderful thing. She said to see people as they truly are. It was this epiphany for her. But then I think she found joy in many places.
Thank you, friends. Those who have something written they'd like to say are welcome to the microphone.
A little shorter than the rest of you. So I'm Cheryl, most of you know me, Kathleen's oldest daughter. I really want to thank you all for coming so much to celebrate her life, my mom's life. I just want to acknowledge, I'm probably going to forget some, but we have people here from California, Washington, Arizona, Texas, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, North Carolina, Michigan, and of course, Ohio. You are people who are dear to my mom or to one of her family members. We are so thankful that you're here. We are here to celebrate my mom's life and say goodbye to her formally. One of my mom's favorite Bible verses from some of her writings in 1997 was Philippians 4:8. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And we have so many admirable and praiseworthy things to remember and emulate about Kathleen Tarr Williams Helbling. We've already heard so many different things. My mom was a complex person who lived her life vivaciously, especially in her later years. She had many interests and passions, and no one could say she was not interesting. She did not have a particularly easy life. As a child, she was sickly, and as a young adult, she had many hard years. In many ways, her true life began in middle age when she came into her own two-person and then found a good life with Paul at 50. We have been very thankful for Paul in her life. All of you in this room, as we've already heard, likely know different aspects and characteristics of Kathleen than I do. I have 60 short years of memories of her. Going through all my photos of her, it is obvious she was always at my side to support me in participating in and celebrating life. From helping me with all my Girl Scout badges, driving me to countless dance classes, and to do a driving paper route, going to my performances and graduations, walking me down the aisle for my wedding, coming out of state to help with the birth of our kids. One time in high school, I had a paper due but had dance classes all night, and she drove me to class and then sat typing my already written paper for me on an old typewriter in the car. Occasionally, she might have been a little too helpful, like the time when she was a substitute teacher in my high school and tried to fix me up with a guy who told her he liked me. When Angela and I were little, we would go to the library every Saturday and sit in the aisles and read books. Jim has always wondered if this was a punishment, since he's not much of a reader. When we were older, we would go grocery shopping every Saturday, and Mom would treat us to McDonald's afterwards, which was a big treat then. Our family built a house out in the country on 5 acres of land. Mom gardened tons of vegetables, even taking some to a fruit market. Had fruit trees and a big flower garden. She has taught me so much about flowers, as many of you, and given me a love of flower gardening, except for all of the weeding, which we felt like we did constantly. My love of birds also comes from my mom. I remember her frequently almost driving off the road to watch a hawk and saying, "Mother!" And now I find myself and one of my children doing the same. A joke in the Tarr family was that I was afraid of butterflies because one landed on me once and I might have thrown an entire pitcher of Kool-Aid up in the air. Right? However, Mom has helped me me to appreciate butterflies and all their beauty, and I can say I've overcome my fear of butterflies, just not snakes. Mom was almost always a teacher, primarily of preschoolers and middle schoolers. She loved children, especially little ones, and related so well with them. You can see it in all our pictures upstairs, and I learned it most poignantly with the addition of Baby Beth to our family when I was almost 16. I believe I got this love of children from her. Probably her most favorite pastime was reading, starting as a sickly child, and she passed that love on to all her grandchildren and children. She was also quite a writer and wrote so many things, starting with a published article in a newspaper when she was in high school, stories about her life, and a book describing a whole year in her garden with pictures included, and we have that on the memorabilia table. We were tent campers growing up, and although I didn't particularly like that because I couldn't shower and we had to use pit toilets, I have definitely gained a great enjoyment of nature from her. Mom taught me how to sew, which I used to sew curtains, pillows, and lots of Halloween costumes, can and freeze, and garden. She took us to church every Sunday growing up and helped us to instill the foundations of Christianity. As an adult, I did a couple Bible studies with her, and we went to a couple church retreats together. She loved to travel, and we took some great family trips backpacking in the Porcupine Mountains and to Los Angeles as kids, and on a Caribbean cruise into San Diego as adults with their families. We have spent so many lunches and dinners together talking about life, our faith in God, and the world. We often didn't agree, but I know she felt she wanted to show me a different way of thinking. We have spent many hours playing games, going to ballets and musicals, starting with my first ballet with her and my grandma when I was 7. Watching Jim's and my kids together in their activities, picking fruits and vegetables and preparing them. My kids loved spending time with their, we call it the country grandparents, her wonderful pies and land, and they took some neat trips with them. As I said, my mom was a quite passionate person. Because of her desire to live her life like Jesus would, her passions were about serving people who were hurting and struggling. She was a strong advocate for social issues, especially later in life. You can see information about organizations she was involved with on the memorabilia tables. We have had different passions in life, but I do desire to emulate her in making the time to serve others and organizations in my life, to use my love of children to serve children selflessly the way she did, to use my faith in God to serve him more instead of myself. We certainly want her legacy to continue on. I had no idea how hard it would be to lose my mom. It is a great loss in my life and in many of yours. I know it's okay to grieve as we let her go. But these words in Philippians reminds me that whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, to think about such things. So I am thinking about how thankful to God I am for Kathleen Tarr Williams Helbling's life, for all of my wonderful memories with her, for all that she gave me and my family and kids, for all that lives on in each of us that we will take with us forever. I want to thank you so much again for coming and for all your support in the last 6 months and in the future. It is important to be together to support each other when we are grieving and remembering our loved ones. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angela. I'm the middle sister. I found this tribute really hard to write. how do you encapsulate someone who is such a free spirit and someone who is larger than life, you know? When I think about my mom, the first thing that always comes to my mind is her laugh, that loud and joyful laugh, a whoop of delight that makes you turn around and look to see who found something so funny. I think about how much she loved teaching and reading and storytelling. My mom and I bonded over our love of books that started when she read to us before bed every night. And now generations of daughters and grandchildren are avid readers. She also loved to tell stories. When I was younger, I came out to visit her in Arizona. She told me lots of stories about the monuments and natural rock formations that we were all passing through. It was also amazing and different from what I was seeing in the Midwest. And finally I said, "Really? That's an amazing story." And she says, "No, actually, I just made that up. I don't know why they call that mountain that." But her best stories weren't just the ones she invented. They were the ones she lived. My mom was never afraid to take a chance, to try something new, or to blaze her own trail. As I've gone through her photos for this celebration of life, I realized what a full life she really had. From the adventures she went on in their RV to the fun she's had with her children and grandchildren, she's always on the move until arthritis took her down. Mom's gardens were famous. From the popcorn patch to her orange azalea bush, she nurtured so many plants over the years and gave away a lot of produce. Once she was driving home from work and she got pulled over for speeding. And the cop said, "Well, I was following behind you and all of a sudden you started speeding up." She said, "I'm really sorry, but I just thought of a great idea for my garden and I just had to get home." There are so many reasons to be proud of my mom. She started her life over several times and built something new and wonderful every time. Her resilience and strength have been examples of courage during the most difficult times in my own life. She has always been her own person, and I have always admired her spirit, even though as a teenager I wish she had been a little less flamboyant. Her spirit showed through when she opened up a preschool daycare center in the 1970s, when a lot of women couldn't even open up a bank account in their own name. Her spirit showed when she started over again at age 40 and started a whole new life. Her spirit showed every time she spoke her mind, and she spoke her mind often. My mother has left unique fingerprints on my heart. Because I have known her, I want to incorporate more of her love of social justice and fierce desire to make the world a better place. Because I have known her spirit, I want to work harder for the things that I want and need. I want to keep my table always open for others. And so today and every day, I hold her memories, grateful for her wild spirit, her courage, and her love.
I'm Beth. I'm her youngest daughter. One of the ways that my mom made her biggest impact on me was through her deep compassion for others, especially those who were underprivileged. She, like Joe said, she taught in a very tough South Phoenix school, and she didn't just teach those students, she showed up for them with everything that she had. Growing up, we had our students join us for dinner, for camping trips. She would stay late after work giving these kids rides home that didn't have them. She cared for people who needed safety and love, and that compassion is something that I always want to carry with me. As we've looked through all of her photos these past few weeks, what's really stood out the most is how truly happy she looked. She lived a life full of adventure, laughter, purpose, and so many people surrounding her that loved her deeply. I know there's so much peace for me and my sisters knowing that in the end she told us she was content and that she'd had a good life, and I really truly believe she meant that. As for me, one of the most meaningful chapters of my life was the time that it was just the two of us until she met the love of her life. When I was 11, she raised me completely on her own. We did everything together. Looking back, I see now how much strength that took for her, and I will always hold those memories close to my heart. And one last thing, my favorite thing that she gave me right before she died was her black sheep earrings. She was not afraid to be different, and I'm so proud of her for that.
I'm Jen, Angela's youngest daughter. Oh, sorry. I thought I had more time. I'm sure that's how a lot of us feel. When you lose someone, other than that serrated hole, pulsating flesh that is left in your heart, you are riddled with regrets. Things you should have said, done, questions that will now never be answered, all because I thought I had more time. I cherish every single memory I had with my grandmother, even when she scolded me to take better care of myself, or when she quite blatantly pointed out that only sloppy guys wear baggy jeans. We had a very special connection, bonding over our mutual love of books, crafts, and gardening, not to mention our full moon phone calls. My life has been so tremendously blessed by having her as a guide and mentor. She was so strong and brave, and she never once seemed scared. How did she do that? She always wanted to see the whole country, and so she and Grandpa bought an RV and spent years going from state park to state park, discovering the beauty of each place. And she was so adventurous and strong-willed. Remember when she and Grandpa went protesting and picketing state to state? What Grandma had to say was important, and she fiercely defended her beliefs. I can thank her for my hard-headedness. But she was soft too, and she had the biggest heart. I think she was most happy putting homegrown food on the table for a bursting full house. I can also thank her for giving me that same quality. When she decided to write her memoir, I had the honor of being asked to be one of her initial editors. As a teacher for many, many years, her grammar was textbook, and there really weren't many suggestions or corrections to be made. But her life was fascinating to me. When you think of your grandparents, you see them as your lifeblood, the fount that all other branches spring from. But here was this whole different woman, a whole life long before I was born. I wish so badly I could have gotten to know that person more. In May of 24, I had my graduation ceremony from Lake Forest College, and I knew how much it would mean to Grandma and to myself for her to see me walk across the stage, one of her grandchildren who had never really been on the path to college. I could see on her face how crazy proud she was of me for applying my hard work and discipline to finish something important. I can still see her clutching her hands together over her heart and that cackling laugh that expressed her true joy. The hardest part is the hole, tender and throbbing at the edges like some vicious wound that refuses to heal. I'll be walking through my garden and think, Grandma would know if my cactus is doing well, or Grandma would know exactly what kind of bird that is. And the wave of loss hits just like losing her all over again. I want to talk to her, and so I do. I tell her about my tomatoes, tell her how beautiful the day is, tell her how much I love her on a full moon, because I know now that I carry her with me whatever I do. I will remember her with every flower that blooms, every stitch that I sew, and I thank God for giving me this amazing grandmother for as long as I got to keep her. When I was a little kid, my mom told me that when people go to heaven, they get a TV with different family member on each channel so they can keep bananas. I know that Grandma is watching over all of us, and I hope I can make her proud. I miss you, and I love you so much. And I'll see you at the next channel change.
Hello, everyone. My sister and I just want to say a few words about Kathleen. We met Kathleen in 2007 while we were students at Bowling Green State University. Like everyone said, she always took everyone in. She became my second mother because she was at our graduations. She was there when I had my oldest son, when I had Adeline. She was also at my wedding. She's been to the kids' piano recitals, so she's been with us through and through. We're going to miss her dearly, but we also want to say thank you, Kathleen, for everything that you've done, and sleep well. Thank you.
The very last thing before I woke up this morning, dreamed a wild house cat. What do we call them? Stray cat. Dreamed a stray cat. It was in a dumpster. It said meow meow meow, and I reached in and gave it some pets, and I just would not put it past I just wouldn't put it past Kathleen for that to, because I could, of course I could have used to see her in the past couple of months, and I did not. I would not put it past her to have visited me for 21 seconds.
I'm Paul, the lucky one. These flowers in the middle of this table, I cut this morning out of Kathleen's flower garden. When we were kind of courting, there's been many gracious adjectives spoken about Kathleen here. And I cannot add to any of those, for they are the truth, as I knew her. So, instead I'll tell a little story. When we were courting, she asked me, what are you doing when you go on vacation? And I said, oh, we go visit family. What do you do, Kathleen? We go visit family. Well, somewhere along the line, we decided that vacations were for us. To get away from the daily routine, to spend time together, visit many places, eat different food, meet different people. And we did it. And I have the 3-ring binders to prove it. Kind of advancing 36 and a half years later. We choose to bring her home. A decision that we both made. And what was the first thing after we got her home that she wanted to do?
was to go through those travel books. And we did. All 36 of them. We had some good laughs. You don't remember that? No, I don't. Yes, I do. You know. Then she asked me to read her autobiography, which she wrote, her life story. And I did that. I still don't know why she wanted me to read that, but I read it to her. And I'm not the best reader. But I can say that decision to bring Kathleen home was also a very challenging time, but also a very happy time. And today it has been 8 weeks since she left us. And I appreciate all of you coming and the words that you have spoken, because this is really a celebration of life, of a woman who lived it. And I know today, I keep telling myself, she is at least in peace and out of pain. So I thank you all for coming, and there's tons of food out there. So help yourselves, enjoy and continue this celebration of life for Kathleen. Thank you.
And we're going to end with a song. A song.
Yes, and Cher and I have decided upon a song, and we'll listen to it now.
If I had only known the last time would be the last time, I would have put off all the things I had to do. I would have stayed a little longer, held on a little tighter. Now what I'd give for one more day with you. Cause there's a wound here in my heart where something's missing, and they tell me that it's gonna heal with time. But I know you're in a place where all your wounds have been erased, and knowing yours are healed is healing mine. The only scars in heaven that won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven are on the hands that hold you now. I know the road you walked was anything but easy. You picked up your share of scars along the way. Oh, but now you're standing in the sun. You fought your fight and your race is run. The pain is all a million miles away. The only scars in heaven that won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven, yeah, are on the hands that hold you now. There's not a day goes by that I don't see you. You live on in all the better parts of me. Until I'm standing with you in the sun, I'll fight this fight in this race I'll run, until I finally see what you can see. Oh, the only scars in heaven that won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, and even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven are on the hands that hold you now.
Amen. Amen. Praise the Lord.
As Paul said, please join us upstairs if you can or are able for some refreshment and for some continued fellowship time and celebration of Kathleen's life.
Yeah.